So, welcome everybody. I know you guys had an exciting training yesterday. So, here we are at day two. Um, my name is Brooke Kennard. I am one of the consultants and project manager here at Black Diamond. I'm going to take over this training. I know you guys met with Lauren yesterday. So, her and I work very closely together on the team and setting up the platform with your admins and so forth. So we're going to talk about a couple of topics that we didn't touch on yesterday, but before I jump into the topics, has everybody been able to log into their user ID? Has everyone successfully been able to get into the site? Are there any questions out there from yesterday's training that we wanted to start with by chance? And you can feel free to come off mute if you wanted to and just jump in, or if you want to put them in the chat. Okay. So I'll assume that silence means everybody was able to get into the platform. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now, and we're going to talk about a couple of other topics today. So bear with me while I do that. All right. If anyone cannot see my screen, please let me know. You should see my main menu here in the front on the front page. So we're going to start today by talking about client reports and how to run reports on the platform. So yesterday I talked about householding and being able to view your clients' data. Today we're going to look at how to actually run a report for your client. So I'm going to go into client view right here on our main menu. And I'm going to just go into this reports and statements area of client view. Take a second and populate for me. If you have not looked at a relationship yet in the platform, you're going to see this search box. So I'm just going to start typing here. You can type in a name, you can type in an account number. It will search for anything that contains that search term in there. I'm going to go ahead and just select my relationship. So I want to see everything here. So I'm going to go relationship level, which is your entire household. And then if we go to this reports and statements tab, this will show you any reports that you've already run for a client. Right here in this list, we haven't run anything yet. So we're seeing this says blank, but normally you would see a list here when you ran something, if you shared it with other firm users, etc. Up at the top, if I haven't started yet and I want to run a report, there's this blue button. So I have my run report button in the top right corner. It is going to ask you what level that you want to run your report at. The majority of reports are run at the portfolio level. A custom template would have to really be built for it to work properly at a relationship level. So you'll want to choose portfolio right here. And then it asks you, in case there's more than one portfolio in your relationship, which one that you want to run it for. So we only do have the one portfolio in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and select that primary portfolio. You'll notice below there are different filters available. So then I have a filter for accounts. So maybe I only want to run this for the 401k or maybe just the IRA. You can filter for one or more. So if I had like 10 accounts in here and I wanted to run it for 2 or 3 of them, I can select as many accounts as I want to from this portfolio that I selected right here. If you want to run for everything in here, you just want to leave that filter blank and it will just default to using the whole portfolio. Down here, I'm going to skip down to this template with the asterisk next to it. So in this drop-down menu, there are going to be any firm templates available, which actually looks like we don't have any firm ones. So bear with me just a second here. Bear with me. I'm having Lauren assign a template to the team that I'm assigned to. It's going to look a little different for you. This is my training user. Perfect. So we have this summary review. You'll see any templates in here that are part of the teams that you are a part of. So your list is probably going to be a little longer than my single template list right here. So I'm going to just choose this summary review. Then you have to choose your date range. So there are some situations where a time period is hard coded in the report, let's say year to date, quarter to date. But if you have like a since inception column in a report you're trying to run, or a custom date range column in the report you're running, that will actually follow whatever date range you're choosing here. So let's say that I wanted to run year to date, or maybe I'll just do last 12 months of information. Your as of date is the ending date of the report that you want to pull. So if I wanted to run a report as of March 31st, I can choose that date. It does default to the last business day that there is data on the platform. So right here is 4/9. That's what we were defaulting to originally. And then you have some runtime settings down at the bottom. So the branding option, there are some teams that have their own logos in Black Diamond. And that's why it's asking here, do you want to use the firm logo, which is the integrity logo, or do you want the team for the client that you're running? So maybe I have a special logo. Maybe I want that logo to appear on the report. So here you can choose whether you want the overall firm branding or specific team branding. Excluding historical data. So if there was any data brought over from a prior reporting platform and it's an interval history data load, that's just asking, do you want to leave that off the report or do you want to include that? Most times you're saying no to this unless you're looking just for like transactional data. Um, Below that is an internal use only. So internal use only reports basically would say that on them, so that you know I shouldn't be printing and giving this to a client. I shouldn't be sharing it with anybody. This is meant just for my own personal use. Maybe you're just trying to do a quick review before you meet with a client. So you could toggle yes, no on that. And then your returns. The returns are hard coded in the template. If for any reason a template is built that they're not hard coded, you can toggle between net and gross of fees, but it's going to default to net. That is how we have your templates currently set in the platform. Sample mode right here. So what this does is, let's say you have a prospect that is saying, I would just want to see what type of report templates that your firm has to offer. What's the layout look like? What sample mode does is it allows you to use real data. So it would use the data from my portfolio, but it would block out the account numbers. It would create fake account numbers, and it would take my name off of the accounts and the portfolio name, so that the person you're showing it to doesn't know that they're looking at somebody else's data. So sample mode, it will actually say sample mode when you run it. So obviously that one's not one you're going to want to share. Right now we're going to leave it at no, but that is an option. And then supervised in Black Diamond basically means managed versus unmanaged. So if, let's say, you manage all of a client's accounts, but maybe you don't manage a particular asset within the accounts, or maybe 1 out of 10 accounts are not managed, this is a filter to say, I only want to run what I manage in the accounts, or only what I don't manage, or maybe everything. So it's going to default to all assets, but that's what the difference is between these filters here. If there is nothing tagged as unmanaged in the portfolio that you are working with, the supervised versus all assets isn't going to be any different. But if you tried to run an unsupervised report and nothing is tagged as unsupervised, the report will not run. So that's just something to kind of be mindful of, is knowing whether this filter even applies and if the correct tags are applied on the platform before you choose to use those filters. So now I've selected all the options, and then I just want to hit run right here. So while that's running in the background, let's say you have another report that you want to run, you can continue to change your settings, you can choose other templates, and you can continue to run those. They'll just keep going in the background. What you'll notice is that I got kind of a couple of alerts when that report completed. So one, I have my bell icon. So up at the top, this is your notification icon. This will actually work in multiple places on the platform. Anytime that you're running like an export or a query somewhere, it will It will, like, tell you when something is finished. You can, edit these, so if you are just running a whole bunch of things and you don't like to get the alerts every 2 seconds, you do have the ability to turn off any alerts that apply to what you've been doing, and say whether or not you wanna receive them. So this will live here. I now have the option to either download the report here. I can also click on the name of the report if I wanted to open up in a new tab. So we'll take a look at that in a second. And then your other option for opening this is from the notification bell. Let's say that you got a client call, you had to go to client view and switch portfolios and relationships, and you still want to get this report opened and on your desktop. You can click on it directly out of the notification, and it will download as a PDF for you. So that notification stays there until you hit this clear button or the little X right next to the notification itself. So here's the report that we ran. So what this is going to pull in, so this is the portfolio name. So this was something that was created yesterday with Lauren training you. On the left-hand side, this is going to show you the name of the template that was run and then the date range that was selected. So I chose as of March 31st, and I said last 6 months, or sorry, last 12 months. Now, this portfolio doesn't go back a full 12 months. So, what this is really showing us here is the beginning of the first day of data that I have in here. So, that's one thing to keep in mind is you might be selecting a time period that goes back 20 years, 5 years, whatever it may be. If the client you're on does not have that much data in Black Diamond, it's only going to show as much as we have. So that's why this is going to show us 9/1 of 23. For this particular template, the first page we have here is our table of contents. So it shows you what each of the different pages are and where to find them. And if we just kind of scroll down, and let me make this just a little bit bigger maybe. Each tab, the name of it is going to show up in the top right corner. We have different tables in here with different types of data. So I mentioned that there may be tables that are hard coded. So here there's a quarter to date column, there's a year to date column. Those are hard coded into the template. So even though I didn't choose those time periods when I ran the report, they're in there. So they're going to show up. There's also the previous year that's part of it, which is only going to really start from 9/1 since I didn't have a full year of 2023 data. As we kind of go through, you're going to have changes in portfolio value over time. This, it looks like it's hard coded to maybe the last 6 months. I can look at those settings. But over here, we have just like a table of allocation of each account inside of the portfolio. We have a breakdown of your asset types by class. And then down here, this is a cost basis table that it looks like it includes projected income as part of this particular template. So you're going to see lots of different data in different reports. I would encourage you just to one, get a feel for running reports, but also to get a feel for what's in each template. I would encourage you to go in and just run some reports to take a look at them. Each of these templates has been customized, so these are not Black Diamond created default templates or anything like that. These are created by members of the integrity team that have basically let us know what they want to see in these report templates. And then this last page, you're going to see it showing up in all of the templates is your disclaimer. So that page obviously has to be there, but the others are going to change just based on whichever template that you decide to run. There are other things you can do from this page before we move out of report running. So if I check off this report, and this may be something you don't have the permission to do currently, but I do want to at least talk about it so that in the event that that is something decided by the firm in the future, sharing the template is only visible to you as the person who ran the report unless you share it. So sharing the template allows you to share it internally with other firm users. The person or people you're sharing with, they do have to have access to all of the accounts included in the template in order to see the report. If they're missing even just one account, it will not share to them. Same with client users. So just keep in mind account permissions. That's how we decide who to share with. Um, You do also have the ability, if you were to have shared that report, you have the ability to unshare it by checking the box. And then if you had shared it, it would show this button here. It would be available to pull back. You'll also notice footnotes down here at the bottom. So the 4 just says that that is the primary portfolio that I ran this report on. In most cases, that's going to be most likely what you're choosing. There are other footnotes here. If you were to share with firm users, client users, they would have there's 1 through 3 that we're missing there, obviously, and they would all signify something, some other sharing mechanism that was used on the report. If you do run, let's say, 2 or 3 different templates and you want to download them all at the same time, here you can check multiple templates, and then you'll notice you also have a download button up at the top. You also have a select all in this top left corner. So if you had 10 templates here and you didn't want to check the box next to all 10 of them, you could just simply check the box here and then you could use that download option. That option also works with sharing, selecting multiple. Um, One other mention is that you can also run a report if you happen to be in the portfolio area in client view. You'll see the same run report button up at the top right corner. So there's multiple places to do the same thing in the platform, which makes it easier just depending on like where you are and maybe you're not wanting to lose this page. So right here, I could also do the same thing. The difference here is that it's going to default to saying that you want to run the report at the portfolio level, which is what we did anyways on the other tab. You still have the same option, choose your template, your date range, and the runtime filters are all the same as well. So not much different. It just doesn't give you the option to choose the relationship level. It also doesn't have the account filter in here, you'll notice. And that's because if you're in client view, you can actually filter before you hit that run button and it will respect your filters that are here. Any questions on report running? Okay. We're going to venture outside of the client view area for right now, and we're going to talk about what we call the business intelligence area of the site. So back out on my main menu, you can see it right here, business intelligence. There are 3 parts within business intelligence. I'm going to start on the dashboard and just kind of talk through the columns and the areas that you're seeing. So let me go ahead and open this up. This is really an area where you're looking from a book of business standpoint. So looking in client view, we've been looking at one client at a time. If you're an advisor, maybe you want to look at your whole book at a time. So as long as you're assigning yourself as an advisor when you're creating your householding, which Lauren walked through yesterday, you'll have a good view of your whole book of business at once. So here we are in the dashboard. I'm just going to collapse my side menu. So there's a button over here at the top left where I can just say to collapse that. Up at the very top, you're going to see that you have some filter options available. So if, let's say, you have any non-billable assets in the platform or unmanaged assets, we saw this filter when we ran the reports. You do have filters to say, I just want to look at my billable assets. I just want to look at my non-billables, or you have the default, which is all. You also have the same filter here for I just want to look at my managed accounts and assets, just my unmanaged or everything. And then down below, if you have access to more than one team, you most likely have access to more than one group or advisor. So you'll only see as many in here as you have access to. In my case, I only have access to one, which is why I'm only seeing the one group available. But you can select all of them if you have access to 3 different books of business and you want to take a look at all 3 of them compared to each other. You can certainly select those too. I'm going to just select my one. So I only have one client myself assigned to myself as the advisor. So normally this will show all of your different client relationships, all of those portfolios that are assigned to your advisor group. Here we have multiple tabs that are going to have different data in them. So just kind of starting from this executive summary right here, what this is going to show you is basically your activity throughout the time period that you're looking at up at the top. So sorry, decided to back me out of that page. So right now I have year to date selected as of April 9th. I also have it as quarterly, and I'm going to show you what that means in just a moment. You do have the ability to change that date range right here. One thing I do want to point out about this dashboard is that you'll notice a lot of things are grayed out. That is by design. So this is meant to be a high level overview of what's going on with your book of business. Not something where like I would go and compare the 26th to the 27th to the 28th necessarily. So what happens is this shows you your month end dates. And then it will show you the last business day. So it does let me get to 4/9, but it's not going to let me go back to 4/8. So I'll be able to see every day as it happens. And then once we get past April 30th, I won't be able to see these dates in between anymore, but then you'll be able to start seeing your dates in May as they happen. So that's not a bug. That is actually how it's supposed to look. Your month end dates being what's available, everything else being grayed out. If you do select different date ranges in here, you'll just want to make sure you hit apply right there. I am actually going to change this because I know I'll just do last 2 years. I know I had some additions that took place at some point with my accounts in here. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust that. And one other thing to point out up here is that the business intelligence dashboard, and this is one of the few places in the site where there's any kind of lag, it updates every 2 hours on the half hour. So if you just came in this morning and you built a new relationship and portfolio and you just assigned it to your advisor group, and then go right into this dashboard, you're not necessarily going to see them right away unless the timing just happens to be perfect and you did it right before the refresh. So this is going to refresh again at 12:30 p.m. Eastern time, give or take a couple minutes. So in about another hour. So anything that I do between right now and 12:30, it's not going to show up till after that next refresh. So down below, what we're seeing here, you have your beginning and ending market values on both ends. New flows and lost flows. So there is in the relationship setup page that you saw yesterday, there is a client since and a client termination date field that are in there. They're not required fields to fill in. However, if you do fill them in, these two columns actually work off of those dates to know whether this is a new client, whether this is a client that maybe was lost throughout the time period that we're looking at up here, versus who is an existing client and what their flows look like. So in my relationship, we don't have that client start date on there. So it's just showing me as an existing relationship, even though within those past 2 years, I was a new client according to when the account started. So just keep in mind that by using that field or those fields, you can get a little bit more data out of the platform. As I click through the different tabs, your wallet share summary, this is going to compare if you're looking at all of your assets through those filters that we were just looking at. This is going to show you what portion of your book of business is unmanaged versus managed. And then it calculates a percentage of how much you're managing as an advisor. So in this case, I don't have anything tagged as unsupervised. So it's showing that I manage the full value, which obviously calculates to 100%. Your management fee summary. So this is where this quarterly breakdown is going to come into play at the top. So if you bill monthly, you may want to look at this on a monthly basis. If you're really just trying to compare annual fees from one year to the next, that's where you would use annual. In this case, we're not going to see any numbers because my two demo accounts don't have management fees in them. However, what you're noticing here is this is comparing the quarter. So it's looking quarter over quarter at all of the fees that took place. There is another place where we'll see a comparison that compares one year to the prior year. But this is breaking this down by quarter. If I had selected monthly, we'd see basically a column for each month for the time period that I have selected. The relationship summary brings together the management fee summary and then pieces of the executive summary. So it's really just showing us here are all your relationships, here are their values. It tells you what percentage that each client makes up over your whole book of business. So you can kind of see who are my larger clients, who are my smaller clients, and you could even sort these columns. So maybe you're trying to see, like, well, does my largest client bring in the most in management fees? How does that kind of balance out? So you can see how these columns all have both the numbers and then they calculate percentages. One thing I did want to point out too is that all these tables, no matter which tab you're on, they are all exportable. So if you maybe are more of an Excel person and you want to be able to run formulas and sort columns and bring a couple of these tabs together, you may want to export the data and then do with it what you will through Excel. Your net flows summary. So this one is very similar to the executive summary. Your biggest difference is that this flow summary is not breaking down whether these flows are new. So from new clients, existing clients, or lost clients. This is just really like what is going on within this relationship or each of the relationships. So you can see your contributions and your withdrawals are broken out also into two separate columns. And then any other activities. So in this case, my demo accounts our manual accounts, they don't have transactions, so it's not really counting them as contributions. But we are seeing that that 71,000 got into the account somehow, and so it's basically making it other activity. And then this is just the net of all three of these columns and your ending value there. The tabs at the top, so this is really just a different way to look at the data. So it's the same as what we were seeing in the tables. So again, with our flows, what this will do differently though is down at the bottom, you'll actually see a top 10 list of your clients for each of these categories. So you'll see who your biggest clients are, your top 10 largest clients. If we go to the management fee tab, you'll see who's bringing in the most in your management fees, and then you'll see an allocation. Since I don't have fees in here, we're not seeing this right now. But in your books, you probably have some management fees and could see these different charts showing up. This one here will normally have 3 bars if you have fees. So what this is basically going to show you on this top bar is each of your relationships. And then it's going to separate each relationship into a piece of this bar chart here. And then there will be a piece on the bar chart for the management fees as well. And when you hover over the bar on one, if you pick a relationship, it will actually highlight that relationship on each of the 3 bars. It's very similar to where we were able to see the market value allocation to the book of business versus the management fee allocation to the book of business. And below, you'll see who's bringing in the most in flows. So who's bringing in the most money into the accounts versus organic growth. Your last one here, I'll just kind of talk through this one, is contributions and withdrawals. So this is basically going to show you a bar for contributions for each quarter that we're showing here. And then it will also show you a bar for withdrawals for each quarter that we're seeing. And then again, you'll see your top net flows, which is a little different than what we saw here. That was just incoming money. This is top net, so that this one will include withdrawals in that number. Also at the top here, if I do change this to monthly, these bars on each of these tabs will also change. So you're going to see monthly bars instead of quarterly. Any questions on the business intelligence dashboard portion? Okay. So let's go into advisor view. Advisor view is a little different. So in advisor view, you can kind of drill in a little further into your book of business. So at the top here, I can create myself either a template or I can just set some settings on the fly and just run the report. So at the top here, if you are an advisor that maybe has multiple books of business or meaning access to multiple books of business, you can filter for the book that you want to look at. So that filter is very similar to what we just saw in the dashboard. Or if you have access to a lot of books and you really just want to see everything you have access to, you also have the ability to choose firm. It will still limit you to seeing just what you have access to. It's not going to pull the whole integrity environment. It's going to be based on your account permissions. So in this case, I'm going to just choose my group. And then you have a grouping row. So this is how you want to see your data laid out. So maybe I just want to see all of my classes of my assets. I don't care who owns them. I really just want to see like how am I as an advisor allocated across the different classes at a group level. What does that look like performance wise? So you have the different ways that you can look at your data. I'm going to choose portfolio account in this case since I only have the one underneath my book of business. Here you're choosing that as of date, so what date you want to look at this for. So you have the last business day is always going to pretty much be your default everywhere on site. You also have the ability to use some quick click options, use last month end, last quarter end, etc. Or you can choose this custom one. And this does allow you to select individual dates within the month. So this is also different than the dashboard. You can look at any date you really want to. Down below is where you're saying what data you want to see in your table. So here you have some column options. Maybe you want to put the custodian in there. Maybe you want to see if you have outside account managers or whatever it may be. Maybe you want to see that detail. So you have the choice of as many of these options as you want. You do also have filters. So maybe you have, many clients with assets across multiple custodians, but you really want to hone in on just Schwab or just Fidelity or whatever it may be. Here you can actually choose what you want to look at. You can also filter for more than one custodian. And then if we kind of go back a second, you can see you can use reverse filters as well. Maybe I want to see everything except for a certain custodian. In your as of date columns, if we click here, you have lots of different options to add in. So maybe you want to see like the symbol of assets if you plan on clicking all the way down to the asset level. Maybe you want to look at accrual numbers, whatever it may be. You can add these columns in here. And then you have your date ranges. So in advisor view, this is like looking at the performance card in client view, but you're really looking across your whole book. So you can have as many different date ranges as you want. So maybe I want month to date, maybe I want year to date, last 12, and so forth. So you can make this table as large as you'd like it to be. You can also add in custom date ranges down here. If you just type in a date, you just hit add there and it will add it right here. Below that are what columns. So for these date ranges, what data do you want to see? So you have the option of a lot of different columns here. So gain loss is just your market change. Maybe you want your return. Maybe you want income, fees, and so forth. So you can add as many columns here as you'd like. Once you have all of your columns added, if you don't like the order of them, so you'll notice they were just added in the order that I clicked on them, but maybe you want your return to be at the end. So you can just drag and drop anywhere you see these little dots in columns. It just means you can rearrange that data. So maybe I want to move my custom date range up here. Maybe I want to move around things up here. Or if you decide you don't want a column, maybe you accidentally clicked on something. To take a column off, you just click on the little X and it will remove it. There is one other option here in terms of date ranges that I didn't mention yet, and this is this one with breakout intervals. So if I choose that one, it only lets me choose one date range. So maybe I want to look at this, let's just say last 2 years or last 2 years looks good. Right here, how do you want to see that last 2 years broken out? So if I want to see the last 2 years broken out by months, I'm going to see 24 months worth of columns. And then I can also choose to see a total last 2 years column if I wanted to. So you could do it quarterly, you can do it annually, whatever way you want to look at that data. Down below are those same runtime settings that we have seen pretty much everywhere we've looked so far. So the running reports, we saw these. There are a couple of them that are different in here. So for market value, you have the option of accrued versus unaccrued market value. If you're looking at anything that includes fees at that account or portfolio level, do you want to see those fees as part of your gain loss or your net additions number? Your different types of returns, net, gross, um, and then you have your tax filters, supervised, so lots of different filters you can use. One other thing to point out on these before I hit run is you can save these views. So at the top left, now that I have this all filled out, you can see that it says save current view right here. If you like these settings and you want to come in every day and just be able to quickly get to the table that you created without having to go back through and select everything again, you can actually name this whatever you want to call it. You can have upwards of around 25 to 30 views saved. Um, at the top, you'll notice that now that I have a view saved, I have a drop down right here that says Brooks View. You can also create more. So if I wanted to, let's say I don't want to do this one with breakout intervals, maybe now I do want to do month to date, quarter to date, year to date. I don't want the last 2 years. Now I have options on the left where I can either save as a new view. I can save the current view, which would end up saving over what I already did. Or you can also delete the views. So I'm going to save this as a new view just so you can see what it looks like when you have more than one in that drop down. So now I have Brooks View and Brooks View 2. I can easily just click on either one of those and it will show me all the settings. So if last minute I do want to change a couple of things before I run it, I can do that. Or I can just hit this run report button in the top right corner and I can let the report run on site. All right. So what we're seeing here is just all the different date ranges that I chose, month to date, quarter to date, year to date, all of the different columns that I selected for each date range. And then to the left, I added custodian. So right now we're seeing the custodian as blank, and that's because I'm looking at this from a group level at the top, and then I'm looking at this from a portfolio level since that was part of the grouping that I selected. And if I expand down here, you'll see I have the 2 accounts in that portfolio, and you can see that's where that will fill in for you. So if you're not drilled down to that account level, if you have custodian in there, it will show up as blank. There are buttons at the top, so this is actually printer friendly. I would recommend probably printing in landscape if you plan on printing. You can also export up at the top. So if you want to pull this out and look at it in Excel, you can do that too. Your view settings is really just going to show you those runtime settings that were selected. And edit settings is going to take us back out. So if you want to change anything and then rerun the report, you can do that. There are also shortcuts in here. So you'll notice as I hover, I have these little symbols, client view, and then the research window. So if I'm in here and I'm looking at my whole book of business and I see something that's like crazy or something I want to go look at a little more deeply on the client view area, you can actually open client view right from these shortcuts. And it will keep you still on this page, so you're not gonna lose the report you were running. But it will do is it will take you right into client view, and it will filter to the level that you selected. You'll notice that same shortcut exists at the account level. So if I click on it here, it's still taking me to client view, but because I was on one specific account, it's taking me in and it's filtering directly to that account. It's not looking at the whole portfolio. Just kind of a nice way to be able to really get in there and dig into the data deeper without losing your whole book, so you can look at that too. All of these are sortable, so if you just click on column headers, you can sort these. And then you also have the option, since we do have saved views, you can toggle between your 2 views right here without having to go back to the settings area. Any questions about advisor view before we leave this spot? Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about advisor reports. So, one more area in business intelligence. In here, you have a couple of different things you can look at. So, your exposure report, a lot of people use exposure reports. So, maybe you're looking to see who holds a certain asset across the book of business, or maybe the whole environment that you have access to. So, the same filters are at the top that we saw before. So, I want to choose my training group there. This is asking you, where are you looking for exposure? So do you care which, accounts hold a certain asset or class segment, whatever it is you choose? Or do you not care what account it is? Maybe you just want to know which of your clients hold something. So here you can select what level that you want to look in. So in this case, let's just say account level. This is asking you what you're looking for. So maybe you want to know who holds, cash and equivalents as a whole across your book of business. So here you're going to see your classes from your classification schema available to you. It's not going to specify which assets people hold within that class. It's just going to tell you your class total. Same with segments. So the segment is that next level down. So I have my cash and equivalents, which is your class, but maybe I don't care who holds cash or tax exempt money markets. Maybe I just want to know who holds money markets. So that's what segment is. It's that second level of your classification schema. And then your third level is going to be asset. So I believe it was Apple that I put in my demo accounts. So let's just say I'm looking to find out who holds Apple. Here, you're just choosing your date. So I'm just going to leave mine last business day. And as of that last business day, what is it that I want to see? So maybe I want to know the ending market value. Maybe I want to know when the client started holding this particular asset. So level start date. Maybe I don't care about allocation. So you can do the same as we did in advisor view, add and remove columns. You're looking for your date ranges. So you can have multiple in here. Maybe you need to know who's held it year to date, month to date, etc. You can add as many in as you'd like. And then what data do you want to know about those assets during those time periods? So maybe it's return. Maybe I don't want ending value because I already have it up here. Maybe I do want to know days held. So this is one I see used a lot because what this will do is even if you've sold Apple sometime year to date, but you've held it somewhere in the 2024 calendar year, it will still show you that client's account or portfolio, whatever level that you selected. It will just show an ending value of 0, and you can see how many days were held in that period. Below are again just your runtime settings. So I'm not going to necessarily train on those again, but you could see you have your market value settings, your fee settings, etc. In this area, so for each of these, you can save one user default. So it's a little different than advisor view. Um, Sometimes people will save like a cash and equivalence report. A lot of firm users don't necessarily use that default option. But if I just want to run it, I just hit run report in the top right corner. It's going to take a second and build it out. This just depends on how big your book of business is, how many people are holding this asset. And then here I can see, well, both of my accounts hold it. Over here, I'm seeing the ending market value as of 4/9. I can see when the asset started in each of these accounts. So in this one, it goes back to September of 2023. In this account here, I didn't hold that asset until April 2nd. Here's where that days held might come in handy. Maybe I'm wondering like, well, why do these two have different returns if I've held them month to date? Well, maybe you haven't held them the whole period throughout that month, so that might be why you're seeing that. And then here, year to date, so for 6 days, this account has held this asset and so forth. So it's just a nice way to be able to drill into the platform and find the data you're looking for. These reports can be exported up at the top here as well. And then edit settings will get you back to the page you were just on. You'll notice there is also at the top a new report option. So if I do new report, you'll notice everything's blank again. I've lost all my filters. I've lost all my date ranges. So that's the biggest difference between the edit and the new report option. Returns. So returns is basically like advisor view, only you're not getting quite as much detail. So in advisor view, I could see my portfolio level, I could see the asset level, account level, whatever groupings that I selected. In here, you're only looking at one level at a time. So if I just wanted to get my returns at the account level for my book of business, you can see I don't have that ability to choose like custodian and so forth as a grouping option. So this is more of a quick return report versus what we were seeing before. I can still put all the columns in that I want to put in, and I can still run that report, but it's kind of simpler than what you were seeing in the advisor view. You can see how I can't expand down. I can still shortcut though into client view, so that does still exist there, and it will still open the tab up to whichever account or portfolio that I'm looking at. This one here is kind of my favorite. So this is a research option at the book of business level. So what this allows you to do is see how you as an advisor have performed over time. So I'm going to just select my group again. You'll notice I can only pick one date range in here. So I'm going to do last business day and then take out month to date. And I'm going to look at this since inception. You do have exposures. So if you just want to see like how you've grown in equities for whatever time period, you can choose just a specific class. I'm going to leave mine to all, but you can choose how far you want to drill down. And up at the top, if I run this report, this table looks a little different. It kind of looks like Excel, just but on a page. So I'll give that a second. So what this does is it shows me every single day during the time period that I selected. It tells me my beginning and my ending market values for my whole book of business. It will show you any accruals throughout that time period. It will show you when there were additions into accounts, when there was a gain or a loss, and this will normally be filled in. These are, again, just keep in mind, demo accounts, so it doesn't have data for every day. However, yours do have data for every day, so you'll see a number for each of these days. Same with income fees, net and gross of fee returns. So that's what NOF and GOF stand for, net of fee, gross of fee. These headers can also be sorted. So you just click on the header and it will sort them for you. But you can scroll through this and you can see, like, for a while, I just had that $40,000 account. Oh, and then another account came on in April of 2024 with another almost $32,000 in it. And so my value is now 72,000. So it kind of shows you how you grow over time. Helps you analyze, is that mostly because of people putting money in? Is it mostly because of market movement? Is it because of maybe interest, dividends, whatever it may be for income, and so forth? This last one here, I'm actually not going to go into just because we're not currently using targets in the platform, but this will allow you to just at a high level look at your book of business. And if you do have targets assigned to accounts or portfolios, it will let you look at your current allocation versus what you're saying a target allocation should be. It won't really run unless you have like your targets built and assigned properly. So right now it won't really get us much on the site, but that is what that report would do from a book of business standpoint in the future. Any questions about any area of business intelligence before we kind of switch over to client portal for a second? All right. So let's go ahead and look here. I'm going to go to my menu, and what we're going to do is look at a couple different things in regards to the client portal. So one of those would be how to impersonate a client. So I'm going to just go back to our client view, and we're going to look at impersonating a client user. So yesterday we built the relationship. The client in contact was created and put on the relationship. So when I'm looking here at my own relationship, you'll notice there's a little person with an arrow here. You'll see when I hover, it says impersonate. So if I click here, it will show me anybody that's part of this relationship. So if I had my spouse on here and they were attached to the relationship, our relationship was a combined one, you'd be able to impersonate either of the two people that were on this. Here, I'm only there myself, so you could click on the name in the top and it will actually take you into the portal so you can see what the client is seeing. So you'll notice that now I do have a button that says return to my user at the top. So that's a button to kind of just keep in mind as we're navigating this. There are 3 tabs currently as part of the client portal. So we have our homepage. This is going to show your end client all of their accounts that they have access to. It's going to show their values. They can actually click on the account to see which assets are in the account. Over to the right here, they'll see their logo. They'll see the same logo up at the top left. We do have options to put in like a mission statement. You can see the financial team, which is me right now. But as the client, I can click on that person or people, and I can get their contact information. So, as far as the advisor info, you can see you can give yourself a title. We can add titles to your user in the platform. So, maybe you don't want to just be called advisor. Maybe you have an official title that has certain credentials in it that you want to have shown. Those can all be added as part of your user. So if I'm like a CPA and I have other degrees and other, tags that I want to add there, I can, denominations. I have my email address, your phone number can be shown, and then The last piece here that can be shown is a personal URL. So maybe you have like a Calendly link that you want your clients to be able to click on and set up an appointment with you. Maybe you want to put your LinkedIn profile in there. Maybe you want to put a link to Broker Check or whatever it may be. Each firm user can have one personalized link, and that can be shown in the portal to your end client as part of their contact, as part of your contact information. There's also a top holdings here on the homepage, so that's just looking at top holdings of what the client has. So I do have an account here that has a couple of other assets we didn't quite see in there. So it's going to just show you your top 5 based on market value. The client can also put in a picture of themselves. So you'll notice when I hover here, it's hard to see, but there's a little pencil right there. If they want to upload their picture, they can do so. Technically, you can upload a picture for them if you're impersonating them, so that's an option too. At the top is where you're gonna kinda navigate, so your net worth tab is gonna show an account list. It looks kind of similar, you just don't have, like, the contact info on the side. You can expand down and see both of the accounts and their assets at the same time, when the account last updated, that total value, but the real kinda meat and potatoes of the client experience is gonna be in this portfolio tab. So I'm going to just go to the dashboard to start off. But similar to client view, the clients will have a dashboard, but you get to choose with your admin team what cards within the client view dashboard that you want to show to them. So you'll notice you probably have somewhere from 8 to 12 in yours. This one only has 4. So in here, the client can see their performance, their activity summary, allocation, and then gain loss. Up at the top, if you do have a client, let's say you have a client that has access to some trust accounts that maybe aren't in their relationship, maybe they're a power of attorney over another client. So the switch button will give them the option to toggle between the different portfolios that they have access to. Um, they would also let them toggle between individual accounts. So this is similar to the filter in client view. There's also a filter here. So the difference between the switch and the filter is when I use switch, I can only pick one account at a time. Filter allows me to say, like, if there were 10 accounts in here, I want to see 2 of them. And then they have date ranges at the top that they can change as well. However, again, theirs is more limited than yours. So, an integrity admin, and the compliance team approves what date ranges that you want to make available to the clients in the portal. Um, you'll notice that they don't have the option to set a custom date range. So, this is grayed out, but they can select their ending date. They can select what time period that they want to see in the portal and then their apply buttons down here. What they don't have are a lot of the card filters that you have in your view, but they do have some groupings that they can change. The cards still work the same, so you can still click into the header to make the card full screen. They have different, so on the performance cards and what you're looking at, you have 3 tabs you could be looking at. It looks like they only have 1 available to them in here. Same with grouping options. There are only 2 available in here, but there are upwards of 10 to 15 that are available to give to them technically if the team allows that. Same with the columns. So these are the columns currently being displayed, but there are many columns you can choose from and decide what you want to show them in the portal. In some cases, maybe you have a more savvy investor versus somebody who just wants to keep it simple. The What the client sees is based on a profile that is assigned to them. So with approvals, there could be other profiles created, maybe giving that one client more than what other people might be seeing. Um, that's something that I don't believe you have the access to actually create those yourselves, but reaching out to your team, you could decide what kind of edits maybe a client might need. When you're done impersonating a client in the portal, it's very important to use this button. If you hit the back button, you're going to notice you'll end up with some forbidden tabs, which is what my other tabs turned into. Return to my user is going to bring you right back out into client view back to where you started from. Other places where you can see that impersonate button. So in client information, Anybody who's assigned to this relationship, you'll notice if they have a username, which you can see if you expand this down, you'll see that same symbol, the person with the arrow. Also, if you set up your home space and you include the members, I'm just going to put a couple of these out here. On that members tab, you'll also see that same icon. A couple other things quickly to mention. So, client experience, those client users live right here under client experience in your main menu. I do want to talk about just the client statuses real quick. So you'll be able to see all the clients that you have full account visibility for. So if I had 10 accounts assigned to my user, but as an advisor, I only have access to 8 of those, I cannot impersonate that client. It's the same logic that we use for any type of report sharing. If you do not have full access to what the client has access to, it won't let you actually impersonate them. So this table will show you any clients that are currently out there that you have access to. It will show you their status. So I have the status of created right here. Tells you how many accounts that the user has access to, what team that they're on, and what profile they have assigned to them. There are some filters over here. So, ready to be invited. If, let's say, you have 50 clients and maybe some of them haven't had profiles assigned yet, maybe some of them are missing account assignments, this filter will tell you who's ready to be invited. And then you could technically select all of them and then invite them as a whole. Those invites, those new user registrations, so similar to the ones you actually received to get into the platform, they would get the same one with their username in it to set up a password and security questions. Those invitations are good for 7 calendar days. So if you have a client that's maybe trying to use a link that was sent to them 2 weeks ago and they're getting errors trying to get into the site, usually they see like a bad request error. You might want to come and check if their invitation is expired. If so, it will let you actually do the same thing that we saw in the other filter. You could select all at the top, or you could individually select people and you could send out the invites to whomever you wanted. You can also go into their user. So if you click into their username, let's say someone got married or divorced, whatever it may be, and they changed their last name. You can change their name here and you can save that. It will also tell you if something in the client user is out of sync with something in the contact. So let's say that I changed my last name and I save that. It will actually tell me. So I'm going to put my maiden name in there real quick. See how it's giving me the exclamation or well, it's an I, an information circle, I guess. You can actually go to the contact and you can change the name there as well. One thing you'll notice is that the username is locked in. So once a username is assigned to a client user, the end client cannot change it and the firm cannot change it. That has to actually be something done on my side of things because we have to search globally for username availability. So we do have to change usernames on behalf of a firm. So just to tell you why that's grayed out right there. Other things you can do though from here, so you can also invite, you can clone a user, you can impersonate from here as well. You can delete the client. One thing I would caution you about with deleting clients is if you do that, you lose any records of them. So when you, let's say, have a client leave, I don't recommend deleting. If they are an active client, there will be an option over here to inactivate them. Then you still have record of, when they were logging into the portal, if they shared any vault documents or you shared documents with them, whatever it may be, you'll have all of that still. Versus deleting the client, you're wiping them out of the system. Any questions about client users? I know we didn't quite get to our last topic, which was data mining today, but we can always set up another training session to go over that. But these are the ones you're probably going to use the most frequently, at least starting off in the platform.
I have a quick question. As far as, I guess, logging interactions with clients, scheduling additional, like, being reminded when to reach out to those clients on a quarterly basis? I mean, is there functionality in here? I don't know, maybe I missed it, but did we go over where we're supposed to, keep track of all those interactions with our clients and things?
So that would be more CRM, a question for CRM. So in Black Diamond, you can put notes on a relationship. So if I'm in here in client view, I can, let me just get it to load here. In the client information area, there's a relationship notes, but this doesn't send out alerts. So this probably wouldn't be the best place to do this. This might be something where you leave like quick hit notes, like birthdays and stuff like that, just in case you're not in your
Okay.
CRM. That would be more of a CRM item though, is alerts and scheduling tasks and things like that.
Okay, tracking. And then also, and I think I might know the answer to this question, but is there any way to import any other information, like if a client holds something that's a non-security, like annuities, or and then so that I can show in their portfolio, or is it only the securities related items?
So that's a decision still to be made. But if there's a data feed, we can search to see if there's a data feed available for the custodian or the carrier where the account is at. If it gets beyond that, that would be more of an admin question. But currently, we're not doing any like manual loads of any outside accounts. We've been finding data feeds for most of them.
Okay, so potentially if a carrier like an annuity carrier had a data feed, it might be possible to add that into so we can
Mhm.
view that along with the rest of their holdings. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Yep. Any other questions? I know we're a couple minutes over. I apologize. I was trying to get through all the material as quickly as possible, but I wanted to make sure we had time for some questions. If anyone has to drop, I completely understand. All right. Doesn't sound like we have any other questions.
Well, thank you. It's just very, very informative. Great
Absolutely.
job.
Anytime. Thank you. I am recording this session, so I will be providing the recording to your admin team who can share this with you internally. And if you have any questions, feel free to bubble them up to them and they can get those through to us. If we need another training session, we can also schedule one, maybe do like an open Q&A once you've had some time to get in the system and play around with it a bit. We could do something like that. We'll probably definitely do another session, probably definitely do another session on data mining, which is another tool that you have access to. So you'll probably hear either from myself or from Lauren again. All right.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. You have a great rest of your day. Thanks for taking the time to join today.
Thanks,
Thank
Brooke.
Bye.
you.